Hey, what's going on, guys and gals? Got a question the other day about the P16 trick and recording your FX and recording your channel strip processing. You know, from a studio point of view, we always want to record all this stuff raw. But, you know, honestly, I've been thinking about it, and there is a way that you can do this and literally just run it through to where you can manipulate these effects on their own track, just like you would use for a plug-in, okay, inside your DAW, Digital Audio Workstation. So right now I'm using the Shure 7B, and I'm running through, I've got my Phantom Power on because I use a FET head with it, if you're wondering. And I've got it going out of the left and right main stereo, and all the meters are working and everything is happy. Now, the purpose of this is we're going to go through the P16 trick, made famous, I do believe, by David Allam with Allam House. Just go up to Google and you'll find them. There's a lot of videos up there that go over this that were made many years ago. And the new firmware, I just can't get it to work. And the people leaving the comments in there, they're saying the same thing. So we can kind of figure out and go back and do a little bit of, not hard routing, but it is the routing that you will have to do in order to accomplish this. Okay, so let's go ahead and pop down into Reaper, and I'll show you what we're going to do. Now, in Reaper, we're going to go over here, and you can see I've got my Shure 7B coming in on channel 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring the XLR outputs from 17 through 24. Now, you got to keep in mind, there's only certain times you're going to be able to use this. If you're using P16s for your in-ear monitors, then there's some of these outputs you're not going to need. If you've got duos or trios up there, soloist, you know, and you want to record these effects in going through the rack, not a bad idea to set it up like this. The vintage reverb here, I believe it came out in 1979, 20 grand. There was a very, very limited amount made of these. And today, if you were to try and find one or buy one, you're probably looking $35,000, $40,000. Okay, so let's jump back up into X32 Edit, and we'll see what we got going on. Okay, so right now, I've got the P16 raw scene in, and I'm going to go ahead and switch over using direct outs for FX 13 through 16. And here I have using the mix buses. And when I say mix buses, this is actually the XLR outputs, okay? So let's switch over to this scene. And we'll say, okay. Now the first thing I'm going to do is assign these to a mute group. And that way you don't have to listen to all this effects coming through. Now, up on our routing, the inputs are not going to change. These are always going to be where you need them to be. It's going to be on the out 1 through 16 as well as the card. Now, on the card, we're going to move the first two over to the alternate. And this is going to record any channel strip processing you have going on. This is strictly for the channel strip processing. Now we're going to come out of user out over here on 17 through 24. And then user out here under 9, 16, 17 through 24. As you can see, outputs 17 through 24 are our direct outs. Now if you hear my voice cutting in and out, that's because of the gate. Okay? Keep the gate off on these guys. As you can see, if I change any of my words, if I get a little bit softer, you know, with singing and the band going on, you're not going to hear a lot of breaths coming through, okay? So we do have an insert in here, and this is my de-esser. As you can see, I've got it set pretty decent. And this is what it sounds like without it, okay? Up here on FX 1 through 4, these are the effects that we're going to use. Now, I do have them exaggerated a little bit just for the video. So let's just unmute them one by one. And we'll see what they sound like, okay? So here, this is the vintage reverb. And here, this is the hall reverb. Now guys, notice the power buttons up here. As you can see right now, they're all off. Okay? Now here is the dual tube stage. This is a real good way to just thicken up some vocals, okay? Again, this is with it on. This is with it off. So the reason I'm showing you this, you've always heard me say that you have to come up here and play with these effects. It's no different than being in your DAW. You've got to play with those plugins in order to see what they're going to do. Okay? And here we are with the delay chamber. Now, with this, once you get these set, guys, if you want to use this for your vocals, save it. And that way, when you come up and you get ready to use it again, or you want to use it for something else, just come up here. You can see Dana Vox. We're going to open it. And then this is the way that I've actually got it finely tuned now. So there's a tremendous difference between this and this. Keep in mind that once you mix this with the music, I'm not a singer. And, you know, it all depends on how that effect blends with everything else that you have going through your mix. Okay? So I'm going to unmute these, and then we're going to jump down into Reaper. And you're going to see these are going to be able to be recorded. And there we go. Here's all our effects now coming in from 17 through 24. Along with my vocals coming in with all the channel strip processing. So now let's go back to X32 Edit. Sorry about that, guys, but you know I've got to be able to do that in order to show you what we got going on. So I've taken the gate off, okay? Here I've got the compressor coming on. As you can see, I'm trying to maintain this line level signal here. And on the EQ, just for a little bit of exaggeration here, if we take this off like this, then you'll see this is the difference that it makes, okay? So again, everything is exaggerated. It's just the way to get the point across on how you do this. So now let's go over here and let's take in the P16, and we're going to actually use FX 13 through 16 coming out of the P16. And this is referred to as the P16 trick. Okay. We're going to come back up to the channel. Listen to the gate now. If I start to just, if I have this set incorrectly, this is what you're going to get when I go through and start talking. That's why I'm saying take the gate off, okay? And then again, we have the compressor coming on and the EQ just like it was. And we also have our FX right here coming through, okay? So let's look at the routing on this. Here, on the P16, the outs, let's come back over here to the out 1 through 16. This can actually go back here. We're not going to use these anymore. It's the alternate here that we're going to use. This is the routing. Remember, our inputs stay the same. So if we come over here now, we're going to use 4 channels or 4 inputs from the P16. Now remember, that's a little misleading. We can actually create a drum bus on mix bus 1, and if it's a standard 7 mic hookup, we can have this one channel feeding the P16 with those 7 microphones. Okay? Again, for simplicity, we're just going to set it up like this. Now, I don't need to, even when we use the XLR outputs, I don't have to have these doubled. I can do this inside the DAW. So I'm basically just using 4 instead of 8. Okay? So just keep in mind, I'm using the left-hand side of all these stereo returns. And that's where these are going if you just line them up. Okay? So now let's go back into Reaper, and I'm going to change my template there, and I'm going to unmute this, and I'm going to be silent so you don't have to listen to all these effects. And now we'll see where they come in Reaper. Okay. So here we go. All of this has been named, and let's do some recording. Now as I lay these channels down, you're going to see these waveforms coming, and this is for all the effects that we have going on there. But we don't need to do a whole lot of this, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this. We're going to save all these files, and then I'm going to turn off these effects. Okay guys, and that's basically it. Now we've got these inside the DAW. So now we're going to get out of X32 Edit. We're done with everything in this side of it, and we're now going to go to post-production inside of Reaper. Okay guys, so here we are. Now I'm going to come through. I've got to switch out a microphone. The first thing, because when I switch out this template, I'm going to lose this input. Okay, so I'm going to patch this back through into my Alias 8-channel USB recorder, and we can continue on with the video. I'll be right back. Okay guys, so here we are in Reaper now, and I've simply just started a new project. And as you can see, I'm getting an error message because I've turned my X32 mixer off. So we're going to come up here, and we're going to change this from the ASIO file to the wave out. Now here, my input device would be the microphone I'm speaking on now, which is going through the Alias. And this is the most important thing, the output device. This goes to my headphone jack that's on my laptop computer that runs into my powered speakers, my desktop speakers. I've simply got those disconnected, and I'm using a set of earbuds that came with my iPhone many years ago. Okay, you can use any earbuds that you want. You can get them at 7-Eleven, Walmart, with the 1/8-inch jack, pretty cheap. So we're going to say okay. So now, even though it says it's off, we don't have anything loaded. So now we're going to load the tracks. So we're going to say insert media file. Now, if you go by default, Reaper Media is under your Documents tab. Okay, you just double click it. There it is. We're going to left mouse click, drag them, and we're going to say open. Now, as you can see, because I had the tracks named, I can sit there and look at them and know exactly what they are. We're going to say open. Now we have 2 options, separate tracks or single track, and we're going to say separate tracks. And there they are. Now at this point, we don't have any outputs whatsoever coming out of Reaper. And we're going to do this under the master. Now, if you look at the mouse real close, you're going to see it change. And when it gets that double arrow right there, that's because you can actually grab this left mouse click it and move this up and down. The bottom half is for your sends and your hardware outs, which is what we're going to add, a hardware out. And on top, you have your FX or your plugins. So we're simply going to click here, and we're going to add a new hardware output, and we're going to say left and right. We now have a stereo output. So now I'm going to solo my vocal channel. This is what we recorded earlier. I'm just going to drag a window here and turn on the repeat, because once I start mixing this, that way I won't have to come up and hit play again when it gets to the end. So let's go ahead and listen to this. Now remember, this is with all the channel strip processing we had on there. The EQ, the compressor, and the de-esser. Now as I lay these channels down, you're going to see these waveforms coming, and this is for all the effects that we have going on there. We don't need to do a whole lot of this, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this. We're going to save. Okay, now the first thing I notice is I have a little breath coming through there, so I'm going to raise my volume up a little bit so I can hear it just a little bit better. I'm going to double click here, and that's going to open up this track for me. I can pull this down and pull this down. So I'm going to come up in here, and I'm going to just capture this window right here. And I'm going to come here now where it says FX, and I'm going to put a gate on that. And now I can adjust this gate as this is trapped inside of here, and just watch what I do. Hear it coming in? So I just barely want to get above that. And let's just see what it sounds like now. And this is for all the effects that we have going on there. We don't need to do a whole lot of them. Now see right here? Right there. That if we zoom in on that, right there. So let's just create a window. Let's trap it, and let's watch it. That's the gate clicking. And there we go. So let's untrap it. We don't need to do a whole lot of this, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this. We're going to save all these files, and then I'm going to turn off these effects. Okay, so as you can see, by not using the gate when we did the actual recording, we can now come in and do it in post. So let's go ahead and draw our window back up in here. And I'm going to go through and start manipulating the effects that we recorded into it. But before we do that, I'm going to select every one of these, holding the control key on Windows. I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to come up here and say duplicate track. And there we go. Okay, so now I can take all these ones that are highlighted, and I'm going to turn them to the right. And then I'll have to come back through and grab the other ones and pull these around and pan them hard left. Okay, so that's what we have right there. So we're going to unsolo this, and I'm going to pull these down, and we'll start bringing them in, and you'll be able to hear this as I do it. And I'm not going to say anything else. I'm just going to keep working on this until I get it to where I like it. And that's the thing. The only person you have to please is the person that's either paying you or yourself. All right, so let's go ahead and play around. Now, as I lay these channels down, you're going to see these waveforms coming, and this is for all the effects that we have going on there. We don't need to do a whole lot of this, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this. We're going to save all these files, and then I'm going to turn off these effects. Now, as I lay these channels down, you're going to see these waveforms coming, and this is for all the effects that we have going on there. We don't need to do a whole lot of this, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this. We're going to save all these files, and then I'm going to turn off these effects. Now, as I lay these channels down, you're going to see these waveforms coming, and this is for all the effects that we have going on there. We don't need to do a whole lot of this, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this. We're going to save all these files, and then I'm going to turn off these effects. Now, as I lay these channels down, you're going to see these waveforms coming, and this is for all the effects that we have going on there. We don't need to do a whole lot of this, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this. Now, guys, as you can see, you can get really, really creative with this, depending on how you want to pan it. But what I'm liking right now is I'm going to go a little bit with the vintage reverb, and I'm definitely going to throw in the tube. Okay, so I'm going to mute these others. Mute. And now let's play with it again. Now, as I lay these channels down, you're going to see these waveforms coming, and this is for all the effects that we have going on there. We don't need to do a whole lot of this, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this. We're going to save all these files, and then I'm going to turn off these effects. Now, as I lay these channels down, you're going to see these waveforms coming, and this is for all the effects that we have going on there. We don't need to do a whole lot of this, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this. We're going to save all these files, and then I'm going to turn off these effects. Now, as I lay these channels, and guys, that's it. Okay, now I'm pretty happy with what I have there. Like I said, if you're not using the P16s for your in-ear monitoring system, it's a great way to get some of this signal over here. These effects inside these mixers are truly, they're just absolutely great. When you hear people complain about them, it's simply because they don't know how to use them. Okay? So if you want to know more about this, and you want to dig deeper into it, and you want some training on the X32, then come up here and see me. I've got a real good training course that goes on. It's face-to-face. It's Zoom calls. It's recorded. You can refer back to it. And we're going to go over everything in this mixer. If you've seen my videos up on YouTube, if you've belonged to our community up there on Facebook, we're the largest X32 rack community on Facebook. And we've got people in there that use all kinds of the different mixers with Behringer, as well as Midas. And one more thing. I will have these scenes up there on my website that you can come up there and you can download. But the point of it is, if you do that, don't just load the scene and be done with it. Take your time and figure out why that mixer is doing what it's doing. And you can do that by simply looking at the scene and seeing where it fits inside your project. Okay? Take care. God bless. And we are out of here.